Hello, everyone. This is Andres Almeida again from JNation 2024. And with me, I have the pleasure to have Ben Evans. So, Ben, what can you tell us about yourself?
Oh, well, thank you. I'm currently a senior principal software engineer at Red Hat, and I am the observability lead for Red Hat runtimes, which means technologies like OpenTelemetry and Prometheus and Micrometer and all of that kind of good stuff about figuring out from the outside how a system, especially a cloud-native system, what it's really doing, what's going on in there.
Okay, great. So does I suppose those topics have something to do with the session that you have today at JNation?
My session is tomorrow. It's actually a workshop. It's actually it's a big subject, and so I always like to have a lot of time to present it. So I have three and a half hours tomorrow to talk about how you would implement it, combining some of the theoretical aspects, because some people think that observability is a kind of a vague and nebulous, and they don't understand that it's actually quite concrete. So I always like to take some time to put it on a sound footing and explain the background theory, as well as how you actually apply the technologies as well. It's a big subject. I can't obviously do a whole architectural treatment in only 3.5 hours, but I can actually start to do the basics, and I have some new workshops and new labs for people to work through, which are based upon my new book.
Oh, great. So what can you tell us about that?
Oh, so the book is actually, it's kind of interesting. It's sort of a second edition of a book I wrote previously, but also kind of not. The original book was called Optimizing Java for O'Reilly, which came out, I guess, 6 or 7 years ago. And that was kind of an interesting time, because at that time it was still possible, I think, to write a book about optimization and performance, which was focused on a single JVM only. Now, we all know those days have gone now. The idea that you can talk about performance without talking about clustering, about cloud, and so forth, those days are gone and they're never coming back. So we have done a second edition, we've updated it. Of course, there are still aspects of it, of single JVM performance, which are still important: garbage collection, JIT compilation, all of those good things. And of course the basics of the approach and the methodology, the statistical techniques you need to be a good performance engineer. But now we have added and augmented with additional material to talk about cloud, about clustering, about deployment, about all of the things that can go right and can go wrong in cloud environments. So we've changed the title slightly, and so we're calling it Optimizing Cloud Native Java. And because it's technically a second edition, it now says second edition, although there was never a first edition of Optimizing Cloud Native Java.
Yeah, that kind of makes sense. So I also know that you're involved with InfoQ. So you are an editor, and you also write a blog post, and you also participate in, I think it's a yearly report of technology. So what can you tell us about that?
Okay, so the truth of the matter is I am not as active on InfoQ as I used to be. I used to actually be the Java track lead. And then a couple of years ago, 3 years ago, when I started at Red Hat, I felt that it was the right time to take a step back. Firstly, for myself and needing to focus on observability at Red Hat, and also secondly because, well, I feel that sometimes you need to make space for younger people and for other voices to be heard. So I took a step back. I still write occasionally, and as you say, I participate in the annual report each time. And occasionally I will find something which is interesting to write a longer form article. What I've always loved about InfoQ, and the reason why I got involved in the first place is, well, as you can tell, I'm British. So in Britain we have the Sunday papers. And on a Sunday, the edition of the newspaper that comes out is very different. And it has much more in-depth, much longer form articles. So at InfoQ, we try to copy that style. We try to say that we don't necessarily the fastest, but we have more depth and more insight. And what you get at InfoQ is very often information you cannot get anywhere else, because our reporters, our editors, have gone deeper. They've gone beneath the surface to find something which isn't necessarily immediately obvious. And I've always liked that technique. The other thing that I always like about them is, I think we still do this, they actually provide quite a lot of training for new editors, new journalists, including some formal journalism training. And so that teaches you how to write a news article, to focus on the basic questions, what happened, where did it happen, who did it happen to, why did it happen, will it happen again? Those are sometimes called the 5 basic questions of journalism. And we need to tweak them a little bit for writing about technology and writing about Java. But the basics of focusing on the fundamentals and going deeper, I think that's a really powerful combination. And that's why I still continue to work with them. It's been quite a few years now, but I still enjoy it when I get a chance to. I am, of course, writing regularly for the Red Hat developer blog as well. And that's been fun.
Perfect. So you mentioned a couple of times participation, and that kind of like brings me to my mind the idea of community, which is kind of what the JNation is about. So what's your impression about the conference so far?
Well, it's actually, I've been to Portugal before, but I've never been to Coimbra before. And it's an interesting city. A bit different to Lisbon and Porto, which where I've been to before. The venue here, of course, is lovely. The convent, the way that it's adapted and reinvented itself, I think, is kind of interesting. And then the conference itself, set within it, I think is great. You can get a sense of the vibe that this is actually, a community, that people have come from all over. But there are also lots of volunteers, lots of people who are giving their time to build something which I think is very relaxed, very chill. It's my first time here, but I'm very much enjoying it.
Thank you. Is there anything else that you would like to share with the audience? Any parting thoughts?
Well, I guess only really that community is all of us. So if you're ever wondering, should I go to my local Java user group or get involved or go to a conference which is community organised, I would say go for it. Quite often the community conferences are the best experience because, they don't, they need to break even, but they don't need to have a huge profit margin, and so everyone can be a little more, open and relaxed compared to some of the big commercial events, I think.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Ben, and thank you everyone else for watching us, and keep watching for the next version. Thank you.
Thank you.